Once again, we're very fortunate to have a very capable keynote speaker tonight, Mr. Mychal Wynn. He is a parent, a husband, an author, an educator, a curriculum developer, and a researcher. And he is the founder and CEO of the Foundation for Ensuring Access and Equity, a community-based organization that partners with the faith community, school districts, and post-secondary institutions to expand post-secondary opportunities for all students. I've known Mr. Wynn for a long time, and he's partnered with students and families across the nation to garner billions in scholarship dollars. So tonight, it is a personal privilege of mine to introduce our speaker, Mr. Mychal Wynn. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, this is what I want to try to accomplish tonight. I want to give you an overview of the work that we do. I want to give you the facts. I want to provide you with some questions to guide your step-by-step actions. I'm going to give you examples of students. And then I'm going to give you actions that high school seniors can take. And then I'm going to take questions. Whether or not you take any notes, it will be okay because they're going to videotape the session. But the thing I can tell you in advance is that the conversation that we have about scholarships is really backwards. We have a conversation about scholarships when our children become high school seniors. We should be having a conversation about scholarships when our children become kindergarten students. Now, I'm going to show you why you can have that conversation. And the thing that is really good is that for most families, we have multiple children. My wife and I, we have 2 sons. I'm going to share with you what happened to both of our sons, and they're 6 years apart. So that meant that we were able to make mistakes with the older one, and we could correct those mistakes by the time the younger one came along. Now, the mistakes that we made with the older one, they weren't really mistakes at all. And understand, my older son, he's at our home in Atlanta. We left him there. He lives in Florida, but he came up just before we left to come here. And Michael David is 34 now. When he was in high school, at North Springs High School in Atlanta, he was a 3-sport varsity athlete. He played football, he ran track and field, and he played lacrosse. And my wife and I, like most of you as parents, we were at every game, we were there supporting him. But what we did not know is something that even all of these years after he's graduated from high school, gone through college, received a debt-free education after college, it's still not widely publicized because I do all the research. So I'm looking at all of this. Here's your one tidbit. How many athletes are here? Raise your hand if you're a varsity athlete. Okay, so here's the one piece of information for you if you don't get anything else out of this evening. They did a research study on, the NCAA keeps a lot of research, but they did a research study on where the scholarship money potentially is for varsity athletes. Well, the commonly held myth over many, many years is that you don't get scholarship money at D3 schools, which D3 schools can't offer athletic scholarships. So many high school athletes in high school, they never even think about D3 schools. But D3 schools, many of them are highly selective, and they offer full scholarships just if you get offered admission. So wait a minute. I'm going back now to the time when our son was in school, and we figured this thing out. And I'm going to show you the school that he ultimately went through, graduated with a debt-free education. And so what I'm going to talk about is what I want all the young people to do is just think about you. I'm not going to try to make anyone into anyone who you're not. What I want you to do is to think about you. I want you to think about your gifts. I want you to think about your talents. I want you to think about your potential. I want you to push out of your mind all the things that you think that you heard about scholarships, that the money is just dropping from the clouds and all you have to do is go outside and hold your hand out and it's going to fall into your hand. I want you to change your whole mental orientation to strategy. what's going to be my strategy? So as I go through and share with you information, I just want you to look at, okay, what could be my strategy? So let's get at it. My wife and I, we run a program out of Atlanta. I've been in education for over 30 years. I've worked with every possible area of schooling, K through 12, college, juvenile court schools in Los Angeles. And in our program, this is our website, that's our phone number. We are working with students every day all over the country. So right now we're really busy with all of our high school seniors who are applying to college and applying for scholarships. So I'm giving you this background so that you understand context. I mean, you should ask any speaker who's going to come in front of you, show me your evidence. You know, you give me this information, you say you know what you're talking about. Well, show me your evidence. So that's what I'm all about. So I'm going to show you that. College planning is more than education, it's about wealth planning. Now I want you to let this sink in for a moment. Many students leave college $60,000 to $80,000 in debt. That means that's $60,000 to $80,000 that leaves your household, that leaves your community, and for many college students, that debt will never be paid off. So if you reoriented your thinking to, wait a minute, if I can get into college and get through debt-free, no matter what type of school I go through, how much money would that save me and my family? So let's look at what this begins to come out to. Here's my son. My son received a scholarship that was valued at $355,000 over 4 years. $355,000 that did not come out of my bank account, out of my wife's and I household, $355,000. But he went to a college that none of the other athletes in his high school had even thought about because of the myth. The myth was, well, if you're an athlete, you need to get your scholarship at a D1 school or a D2 school. Here's the school that he attended, and here's what I want the young people to listen to. As they are talking about this school, I want you to ask yourself, what category do I fit in? Because this is the first piece about college planning. When you're looking for scholarships, what is the category that you fit in, and that's where you are pursuing your scholarship money.
Colleges like Amherst is huge. Amherst was the best small liberal arts college in the country, higher time in the last 4 years. It turns down more than 80% of applicants. So who gets into Amherst and why?
And we started showing it around to the number 2 in the class. She has a 97.2 on weighted GPA. Her senior grades are excellent.
Amherst led us to look inside the admission process to find out how we grade grades, SAT scores, athletics, family connections, and other factors. The process began this way. Every application was read at least twice. By the time the 11-member admissions committee met in March, they've already eliminated half the applicants.
There's the alpha sex, there's the Bertram sex, there's the ring ensemble, there's like
They discussed the remaining 2,700 candidates in these 2 rooms.
Julie has an interesting take to consider forward.
We strive to challenge and we make wonderful today.
How hard to do admission in a financial aid, and several of his colleagues make the tough decisions. How does it all put together?
It's an overview. It's enormously difficult. We're a small school. We're going to be born with 3 people in the grade, and we have the ambitions of a large university.
After review, an applicant's future comes down to a simple vote.
Any more questions? Then vote. Accept.
The committee considers each applicant's situation.
He's a national semifinalist, AP scholar, class president, managing editor of the Classics magazine.
The reading SAT will be the best ever this year. He may also be a finalist for the Classics scholarship here.
Just when things were looking up, the committee became also problem. The students' grades had slipped in 1 semester back in 10th grade.
But I was reading it, I think they had one, I was thinking a B or 2, or, even just a C plus, but It's pretty much even down as far as being nice and looking for it them.
As I spoke with the counselor, and he just said that the student's under tremendous parental pressure.
Okay, questions? Anything else you want to accept? Awkward?
By voting Harvard, the committee was elected to revisit the student's application. In the end, he was waitlisted.
I think that was a bad decision. I do, and I bet that there are some that maybe I didn't vote for, and some people could say, well, he didn't vote for that either.
Is there one characteristic that would make a student a shield there?
Yes, I think where you just say, I can see the kid sitting in the seminar with his hand up, just shouting.
Is there one characteristic that would make a student automatic objection?
It would be bad things. I think that's the killer.
94.4 weighted GPA. Very into the middle first, in fact, that was for the second.
How important are extracurricular activities?
As small as the college, like I said, the life of the place in many respects, strengthened the elements that used to do things like this.
She said when she was involved in units, she was in student government, she's on the editorial board for Lit Mag, she's edited the newspaper, she's founder and president of the Community Service Club.
So extracurricular activities are essential. What about SAT scores?
SAT scores are important if you are a person who has had a lot of opportunities in your life. For people who have had fewer opportunities, SATs are less important for that person.
His home language is Spanish, his mother is a housewife, his father is a handyman. Brian has used his failure to be admitted to 2 other independent schools because of low testing and the constant vision of his father working himself to death to drive himself to achieve. He's doing everything he can. He clearly testing his own strength, but. Okay, any more questions? Steph?
If you tie admission strictly to SAT scores, you're going to end up with a very wealthy student body.
They live in a tiny studio apartment, and Victoria must wake up in the middle of the night sometimes to have me to do her homework. Really amazing girl.
All right, I'm gonna stop that clip there. Here's a question for young people. When you were listening to them, this is a table full of people who would have the decision over the rest of your life. If you apply to college, these people who don't know you, they only have what's on the table in front of them. And when you listen to them talk about what was in front of them, the question that I always ask young people is, what part of that could you control? Because see, with our oldest son, he wasn't a perfect A student. Like you heard the one admission officer said, well, I thought his grades were going to, just have a slight dip, but he had 3 Bs. I mean, my God, 4 years of high school and 3 Bs could tank an application. If my son, if it was Bs, he never would have gotten into that school. He didn't have his first A until second semester, 10th grade. So then if he wasn't going to be the A student, if he wasn't going to have the highest test scores, what else were they saying? They were saying, well, he's in this organization, she's in that organization, she does this, she does that. The part of the film clip that I didn't get to is that they set aside 10% of the seats in their freshman class for athletes. So for my son, for his strategy to get into this school, they had the right financial aid policy. He wasn't an A student. He didn't have the highest test scores, but he did have 3 things that every young person who goes through high school has control over. He controlled the classes that he took. Well, let me rephrase that. My wife and I controlled the classes that he took. He was a brilliant artist. My son now is a professional artist. He's an artist since kindergarten. He designed the school calendar for his elementary school as a kindergarten artist. So what I'm saying to all the young people is that God has blessed you with gifts and talents. You can take any of those gifts and talents and structure a plan around it to get into the right school or to qualify for the right scholarship. So this happened to be the school for him. And again, let me say this to parents, because sometimes, I will speak and afterwards I would get a lot of excuses. People say, oh, Mr. Wynn, you don't understand. My child can't do this, she can't do that. Oh, Mr. Wynn, you don't understand. I've been trying. Here's all that I want you to keep in mind. If high school was your child's job, and someone said, I would pay you $355,000 if you do this job right for 4 years, what would you say to your own children? Every single day would be boot camp in my household. Get up, go to school, take care of your business, and that scholarship is going to be waiting on you in 12th grade. You can plan that. And I'm going to show you. I'm not going to leave you with my kids. I'm going to show you how this is happening every single year with young people. My youngest son. Now, his scholarship wasn't worth this much. His scholarship was only worth $144,000. Now, why is that? Because they're both full scholarships. Well, it's because Amherst is an $80,000 a year school, and Morehouse College is a $50,000 a year school. See, it doesn't matter how much the scholarship money is worth, parents, as long as it is zero student loan debt. So a full scholarship at one school may be worth $144,000. A full scholarship at another school may be worth $200,000. None of that matters. All that matters is that it is a full scholarship and you don't have to pay anything. So how did this son, who was in the NROTC program, brilliant pianist, multi-sport athlete, how did he plan his scholarship? We watched this video I'm about to play for you when Jelani was starting 6th grade.
This is a message for America's young trailblazers, the innovators, builders, and dreamers, the intellectuals whose grade point average is anything but average. You believe your hard work and dedication will result in the best opportunities for your future. Well, guess what? You're right. The Gates Scholarship is dedicated to further the success of 30,000 students over the next 10 years. This annual scholarship award will eliminate financial barriers for high-achieving, Pell-eligible minority students pursuing a bachelor's degree. Scholars will receive funding for the full cost of attendance that is not already covered by other financial aid. The Gates Scholarship will select 300 exceptional high school seniors each year and will promote their educational and professional success by providing technology-enabled mentoring, career services, leadership training, and more. Most importantly, scholars will be able to connect and interact via a MyTGS app, enabling students to learn from one of the greatest resources available to them. Because, whoa, I can tell you're excited, and we've already established that you're high achievers. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about the scholarship criteria. As mentioned previously, the Gates Scholarship Program is designed to accelerate the success of America's most promising young leaders. Successful applicants must demonstrate the following: distinguished academic performance, health and eligibility, exceptional personal success skills, and proven leadership ability.
Here it is. I mean, you all came tonight because this is Scholarship 101. This is the information right there in black and white. Most scholarship programs tell you exactly what they're looking for. The only question for young people is, will I be that student that scholarship program is looking for? And what I say to young people is that you have many options. You don't have to agree with anything that I show you tonight, because here are the options. Let me give you this in advance in case you decide, I don't want to stay until the end because I'm feeling depressed. He wants me to be a leader. He wants me to do service. He wants me to be vested in my own outcomes. I mean, where did they find this speaker? What I'm saying to you is that there are scholarship lotteries. Scholarships for left-handed people. Scholarships for people who walk with a limp. Scholarship for people who braid hair. You can just go and you just apply. Why are there so many scholarship programs like that? Does anyone ever ask themselves? It's because companies market and develop their mailing lists by asking young people and people to contact them. Law offices. Almost every law office in America has a scholarship. a $1,000 scholarship from a personal injury attorney. And you know what they get for that $1,000 scholarship? They get 100,000 people apply. And when those people apply, they now have a mailing list of 100,000 potential clients. What about left-handed scholarships? There are companies that make ink pens for left-handed people. So when they get 25,000 people apply for their $500 scholarship, now they have a mailing list. That was easy. They didn't even have to advertise. They just had to say, I got a scholarship. What I'm saying to you is that all the data shows that that's not where the money comes from. So if you can just get beyond what you think you know and just open your mind to some potential, I'm going to show you how you can get there. So the Gates, going to our son, the Gates said, this is what we're looking for. What my wife and I did when our son started high school at North Springs High School in Atlanta, he was in the ROTC program. He was pursuing additional ranks intentionally. He was participating in competitions intentionally. He was a brilliant vocalist and pianist, so he was in the music part of the program at his high school. He was writing music, classical music for piano. He was creating videos of him playing piano and singing. And then in the classroom, this is the biggest one. We live in a generation where our young people are no longer building relationships with people. They're spending all of their time on cell phones, texting, and on social media. When it's time to apply for a scholarship, the first thing the scholarship provider says is, we need a reference. We need a recommendation. We need a teacher to stand up and talk about. In that video about Amherst College, when they asked the guy, who are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for that student that I can just see in the class with his hand up, just shining. How does he find that student? Someone writes a recommendation and says, when he comes to my class, man, he is on time. He sits in the front of the class. He is engaged. He is a delight to teach. We get seniors every year and we say, who's going to write your recommendation? They said, well, Mr. Wynn, I don't have any relationships with teachers. You have 4 years to build these relationships. And you need someone to talk about you, how they like you, how you deserve the scholarship. Now, for those of you who came tonight who said, look, I deserve the scholarship because I don't have any money. There are 1.3 million students every year who graduate from American public high schools, and 80% of them need money. If you're in that group, that doesn't make you special. It just means you need money. This is what we did in Georgia. We started this whole conversation in our church because the conversation was not happening in schools. And then we started graduating young people from our church every year with millions of dollars in scholarship money. We then had our first school district partner in South Carolina. Associate superintendent drove to Georgia to come to our graduation celebration at our church to see what we were talking about. And the first year that we were working with them, they had their first Gates Millennium Scholar in the history of the district, and the second one the next year. And then Guilford County Schools, we started working with them. That program in Guilford County was recognized nationally, particularly for refugees and first-generation students. And then we came full circle, where we expanded the program at our church because of COVID. When COVID shut down schools and everyone was running around complaining, and I'm not making light of it. I mean, my wife and I have been stuck in the house with each other for 2.5 years. So I understand her pain. But when COVID shut down schools, our program just became all virtual. What we found was we were now able to connect students from all over the country to what we were doing normally in our church. So just before, this was the last meeting at our church. Now I want all the high school juniors and sophomores to understand why these high school seniors are so happy. We started working with those 3 young ladies there. They're triplets. So I'm going back to wealth. They're triplets. And when we started, let me make sure one more time. We started working with them. They were high school sophomores. And then Faith, she's sitting in the corner. She was a high school sophomore as well. So now they're all seniors. Here's why they're so happy. For Kyler, her scholarship is $258,000 over 4 years at Wesleyan University. For Sydney, she's on full scholarship at North Carolina A&T State University as a Dowdy Scholar. Tristan is on full scholarship at Claflin University in the Honors College. Let me say this just to a parent, because sometimes the young people, they do not understand this. If you send 3 children to college at the same time, and they come home for Thanksgiving, and they were all in school on full scholarships, you know how happy that Thanksgiving is going to be? And so then Faith didn't get a full scholarship to the University of Chicago. It was worth $241,000, but because of how she packaged herself, she was a Round Brown Scholar as well. So that's sort of the history and framing the conversation. Now the facts. So let's look at the facts, and then from the facts, build the plan. Okay, so here are the facts. There are over 24,000 high schools in the country, 3.3 million seniors, 1.5 million who are going to graduate and apply to 4-year college, and 8 out of 10 are going to need financial aid. So if you just hold on to those facts, and then what you do as a family is think, okay, now I understand how incredibly competitive this is. No matter what I have been told in the past, this is going to be incredibly competitive. So given that, let me look at what is a strategy that works for me. And again, what I'm saying tonight is I'm not asking any student to be at a certain GPA, not asking any student to be particularly gifted in anything. What I'm saying to every student is become the best version of yourself, and then identify the colleges and the scholarships that match to the best version of you. And that's where you focus your attention and your energy. So the Washington Post did an article years ago dispelling the myth that scholarship money is just falling from the sky. So here's what they found from all the research nationally. Only 1 in 8 students are going to get any scholarship anyway. The average scholarship they're going to get is $4,200. Less than 2 in every 100 students are going to receive a full ride, and that includes athletes. Only 3 in 100 athletes will even receive an athletic scholarship, and it won't be anywhere close to a full ride. And the average athletic scholarship is going to be $11,914. So if you start from that foundation of these are the facts, so let me build my plan around the facts. So how do we begin to build this plan? The first thing that every family has to come to grips with is you have to want to avoid student loan debt. I mean, as a family, you have to want to avoid student loan. This is going to be a hard conversation because here is the unfortunate reality with the hundreds of high school seniors that I'm working with every year. Young people want what they want. They don't want what they deserve. Let me say that again so the young people can be nice and upset with me. Young people want what they want. They don't want what they deserve. When they go through high school and they make choices not to do work, not to turn in work, not to prepare for tests and quizzes, not to show up at class, those are choices they make throughout high school. And then they become high school seniors and they haven't earned their way into the school that they want to go to. But if they're offered admission, they're not going to be offered scholarship money. So then they don't want you to tell them they need to start at a technical college or a community college and earn their way in. They want what they want. And the federal government makes it easy for them because any high school senior sitting in this room, if you can get offered admission to a school, even if that school doesn't offer you any scholarship money whatsoever, you can complete your FAFSA, tell the school your parents won't support you. The school will give you all the student loans that you need so you can go to school there. So you can graduate from that school 4 years from now, exactly where you want it to be, with $100,000 to $150,000 in student loan debt, and it will impact the rest of your life. And I'm telling you this not as a parent. I'm telling you this as a landlord. I just rented a house that my wife and I own in Roswell, Georgia, and the applications came in. There was an application for a really nice young lady, 27 years old, young professional. I couldn't rent to her. She had $180,000 in student loan debt. There's no way for her to pay the rent and to pay her student loans. So if we could all agree with that, no student loans. Let me go back to my son, Jelani. Jelani didn't get his degree from Morehouse. Now, some parents may be, disappointed. I know my wife is. But me, I look at young people and I say, you know what? It is what it is. But you know what? He didn't leave Morehouse with any student loan debt. Jelani's driving trucks now. Every day he calls my wife. I think today he's in Idaho. He loves what he's doing and I'm happy for him. But you know also why I'm happy? Because that Gates Scholarship ensured that he didn't have any student loan debt. So he had a choice. I love Morehouse and now I'm driving trucks, but I don't have any student loan debt. And my parents don't have student loan debt. That's the point that I'm trying to make for everyone. So this is the reality in terms of student loan debt. And the reality is this. I want all the parents to understand this. Nationally, no matter what racial group you come from, what gender, or citizenship status, if you leave college with student loans, on average, it takes you 20 years to repay them, except if you're black. If you're black, the data shows 20 years after graduating from college, you will still owe 94% of your original student loan balance. Everyone should say, look, all right, Mr. Wynn, I don't know how I'm gonna get a scholarship, but I know one thing I'm not gonna do, and that's take out any student loans. So if we can agree on that, we can develop a plan. So how do we start to look at this whole thing? First, let's look at what the money is, so that everyone understands. State scholarships is the smallest pool of money to pay for college. Private scholarships is the next smallest pool. Federal grants tend to be more than state or private scholarships. The largest pool of money to pay for college comes from the college. So, if the largest pool of money to pay for college comes from the college, then what you should be doing over the course of 4 years of high school is identifying the right college so that you get the largest pool of money and then look for small scholarships to close any remaining financial aid gap. So I'm going to show you how you look for the right colleges. When you start with your state scholarships, for some of you, if you lived in another state, you would go to school in state because you have a state scholarship. In North Carolina, you don't. In North Carolina, there are state grants for low-income students, but when you look at $700 to $2,800, that's a small amount of money. But if you stay in state, you can put that in your tally sheet. For private scholarships, they're not nearly as easy as you think it may be. Only 1 out of 8 students are going to receive a private scholarship. 97% of the scholarships are going to be $2,500 or less. Less than 1%, actually 0.1%, will receive $25,000 or more. And again, less than 2% of students are going to be attending college on full scholarships as a result of a private scholarship. Keep in mind, I played that Gates clip. Remember what they said. They award, the Gates Scholarship, they award 300. There are 60,000 students who apply for that scholarship every year. So it is more difficult to be selected as a Gates Scholar than it is to get into Harvard. So if you keep that in mind, then again, I'm not discouraging you from applying for anything. I'm trying to ensure that everyone leaves the room with realistic expectations. So then, federal grants and scholarships. The Pell Grant for 2022-23 is going to be almost $7,000, $6,985. For students who come from low-income backgrounds, highly low-income backgrounds, they can qualify for another grant, FSEOG, which is between $100 to $4,000. Special programs for teachers. There are all TC scholarships that pay tuition, provide a monthly stipend. This is a military town, so if you're planning to use the ROTC scholarship, here's what you need to know. The ROTC scholarship does not pay room and board. Room and board at some colleges is going to cost anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 a year. However, there are some colleges that offer a room and board stipend to their ROTC cadets. That means that you have to research and identify, well, what are those colleges? And if I want the ROTC scholarship, can I get into those colleges so that I still don't have any student loan debt? And then, of course, the military service academies pay everything. But if you're planning to go to a military service academy, their application process is really intense. And it requires that you do your planning, that you know when you start 9th grade in high school that you want to go to the Air Force Academy or to West Point, and that you're going to put those things in place and build those relationships with the people who need to make the nomination. So again, you have to be planning to plan. And then the institutional scholarships, here's the thing, and let me speak on this for a moment, because for the work that I do, this is the most important slide of tonight. Whatever grade you're in, if you leave tonight's session and look at your body of work, whatever your gifts and talents are, whatever your grades and test scores are, whatever type of rigorous course taking you've been taking, whatever it is that you do, and then you start to research and identify what are the schools that my profile matches to. And so I'll give you some examples from the schools that are on this list. UNC Chapel Hill, they have a financial aid policy called the Carolina Covenant. And, or the Carolina, it may be called the Carolina Promise. What they say is, we will meet your full need. So that means if you're offered admission to UNC Chapel Hill and you come from a lower income family, they have a financial aid policy that says we'll meet your full need. Harvard, Yale, all the Ivy League schools have the same policy. They don't offer, let me go back to the athletes. The Ivy League schools don't offer athletic scholarships, but they meet the full need of every student they offer admission to, which means that if you're an athlete, that can get you in, and once you get in, their financial aid policy provides a full scholarship. Duke, Vanderbilt, Rice, Stanford, Northeastern, which is where I graduated from college, Northwestern, University of Chicago, Wake Forest, they all have similar financial aid policy. But that first group of bullets means that you have to take high school seriously, because you're going to need recommendations. They're going to need to see that you took your classes seriously. You need to be involved in something, and you need to make a difference. I can't, for everyone in the room, the number one document that will open the pathway to college scholarships, particularly private scholarships, it is not your high school transcript. It is your resume. Your resume shows what difference you have made in the lives of somebody else. Whether through your involvement in a club, community service in your community, leadership in your community. See, your high school transcript, let me just say it in the language that young people understand. Your high school transcript can be jacked up. I mean, it can be all messed up. D here, F there, C, A and P, E, D, F, C, A and PE too. Your high school transcript, I mean, it can be jacked up. But you know how you can even still get a scholarship? You write an essay that talks about all the stuff that you've had to go through in your life that caused you to receive those low grades. You get a teacher to write a recommendation, or a counselor to say that you're really a great person who's just had challenges. And then you have a resume that shows that despite the fact that you weren't always present in class, that you were trying to make a difference in someone else's life. I've had students who have gone to school on full scholarship who weren't involved in any clubs or activities at school. because in their resume, they wrote about taking care of a sick here's one for you. I have a young man now at the University of Chicago on full scholarship, and here's what he said in his essay. He said that he lives too far from his school to be involved in after-school activities, that he has to come straight home because he has to take care of his grandmother while his mother works, and that he has 2 younger siblings. He helps them with their homework at night, and he doesn't get to his own homework until about 11 o'clock. And then by 12 o'clock, they are snoring in stereo, and how difficult it is for him to complete his own work. But that he has worked hard. He's in school on full scholarship. He didn't have the best grades and test scores. So the point is to look at who you are. Those liberal arts schools, just let me see a show of hands. Let's we family now. I like Cumberland County. We family. So let's just raise your hand if you're looking at those schools and you have never even heard of them. Raise it real high so I know who you are. Rest of the people, they won't raise. Some of the young people, I work with young people all the time. I was here. I came here in February, and I put up the same list with a group of young people. They were middle school students, so they were honest. I said, raise your hand if you have never heard of any of those schools. Everybody in the class raised their hand. So the point that I'm making is that many of the schools that you have never heard of is where your full scholarship money is. Which means that you have to start developing a plan to figure out how do I get from where I am to that school that has the full scholarship money for me. Okay, merit scholarships, the one that is most widely known is athletic scholarships. That's what we talk about all the time. But those aren't the only merit scholarships. Music, dance, theater, art, speech and debate, government, leadership. Colleges have programs. And in order to get students onto their campus to participate in those programs, they offer scholarship money. So you need to if the college is not looking for you, you need to look for the college so that you match who you are to the programs that the college is looking for. Sometimes I ask for a show of hands, and my wife told me, stop embarrassing people, so I'm not going to even ask. I'm just going to make the statement, and you don't have to raise your hand. The most direct pathway to a full college scholarship are your grades and your test scores. So for those of you who have read all the scholarship blogs, Princeton Review and College Vine and College Confidential, and all the young people telling you that, well, you got to be involved in 5 organizations, and you have to be president of 9 organizations, and you have to have walked through water, save people from the flood, and saved an old lady from a burning building. No. I mean, that could get you a scholarship. Grades and test scores. And for those of you who say, oh, Mr. Wynn, I don't believe you. I don't care. Because it's right there. Colleges tell you on their website. This is Tuskegee. One of our students is going to be going to Tuskegee on a full scholarship. He was not the greatest high school student. He's a brilliant athlete. He plays rugby, plays football, runs track and field. But he had the 2 things that Tuskegee said. See, I want to make sure that we're clear. Right here on their website, they say if you have a 3.7 GPA and a 1,300 and 1,420 on the SAT, or 28 to a 32 on the ACT, okay, I just want the young people, just read it out, read it aloud. What does it say you get? I mean, you all not even saying it with authority. Parents trying to avoid student loan debt, and you're like, full tuition. What do you get? See, I'm listening to young people. As a parent, you know what I say? Man, full tuition, room and board, books and boy, you go to Tuskegee. Daddy, where is it? Is it Alabama? I don't want to go to Alabama. Then you go to community college for free. You either go to Tuskegee in Alabama, or you can go right around the Georgia perimeter for free. Well, I don't want to go to Georgia perimeter. I want to go to UGA. UGA is not going to give you a scholarship. Tuskegee, here we come. I'll load them all up in the truck, and we would all go. The point that I'm making is that it's not just Tuskegee. Many colleges post right on their website what they're looking for. So here are the things that you need to do. Here's the things that anyone can put together their plan. Let's begin with first, understand your family income. If you come from an upper income family, you are going to be pursuing merit-based scholarship money. That's money that has nothing to do with your family income, only has to do with your talent. If you're from a lower income family, you get it all. You get to pursue merit-based money, and you get to pursue scholarships that are based on being lower income or based on family need. This is from the Rice website for those families who say, well, Mr. Wynn, we make too much money. I'm not making 20. The scholarships are only for people making $20,000 a year. It's not true. This is on the Rice University website. What they say on their website is that if your family income is below $75,000, you get everything just like at Tuskegee. It's not based on your grades or your test scores. You just need to get in. So you get everything just like at Tuskegee. If your family income is between $75,000 and $140,000, you get full tuition. And then if your family income is over $140,000, $200,000, you still get half tuition. Here's the point that I'm making. I'll go back to the point that I made earlier. If you do your research when you start 9th grade, develop a college list that matches to your family income and your gifts and talents, then every year of high school, you maximize your opportunities so that you can do what? Be offered admission. Rice is a tough school to get into. But if you know that's the school that will give you a free education, then what you do over the scope of the 4 years of high school is you make sure you get there. There's one thing that sometimes I miss saying, and there are people, and I saw 2 people leave before I'm done. I won't say early, before I'm done. And it's not said. If you know someone who has an IEP or otherwise in a special education, there is nothing that I have said tonight that does not apply to them. These highly selective schools, as a matter of fact, here's the most highly selective in America. Yale University has an entire department that is dedicated to students who have special needs and IEPs. So it is impossible for anyone to leave and say, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. Of course it does. But you gotta identify the schools that meet all of your needs holistically. And again, that only comes from research. So your gifts and talents. Okay, at least just sometimes, I can't because I'm being videotaped, so I can't walk around. All right, I'll stand here. Just let me see a show of hands. So I know at least I can have someone in the room with these gifts and talents. Raise your hand if you have top grades and test scores. All right, not nearly as many as I was hoping. Okay, raise your hand if you play a sport. All right, got more athletes. Raise your hand if you are in the creative arts, spoken word, poetry, creative writing, visual arts, dance, theater. Okay? Raise your hand if you're a leader in a club, you're president of something, captain of something, vice president of something, started something. Okay? Raise your hand if you, okay, let me qualify this. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. I'm not interested in community service where you're a football player and the coach says you need to go wash cars and you go down there and you wash cars because the coach said you needed to go wash cars. Raise your hand if you have done meaningful community service. You've tutored a student. You've coached a middle school or an elementary school team. You've done something at your church, or you've helped people who were displaced by natural disaster, and you did it on your own. Your parents didn't drag you down there. Your coach didn't make you go down there, but that it was in your heart, it was in your spirit that you wanted to make a difference. Raise your hand so I can see who you are. All right? Got a good group of those people. So where do we go with that? If you want to take a picture of a slide, this is it. If you can imagine yourself becoming exceptional in something, where when your application is on the table being reviewed for a college or a scholarship, that it stands out because you are exceptional at something. You're not comparing yourself to your friends, but it's just you. You are exceptional at something. When I went to college at Northeastern, I was the first in my family to go to college. I grew up poor. I attended one of the lowest performing public high schools in America. My community was just ravaged by violence and crime in Chicago. When I applied to Northeastern, what they saw in my application was grit. What they saw was that if I could survive that environment and still be standing at 17, graduating from high school, that they were going to give me an opportunity. But what they did was they didn't admit me straight away. My high school didn't offer classes in physics or calculus, and I wanted to be an engineer. And so they sent me a conditional acceptance. They said, we accept you on the condition that you take and pass a class in physics and calculus. For me, that was nothing but a word. If you told me that I could leave Chicago and go to Boston to college and get an education and pull myself up out of that type of environment, man, that was, I went to Kennedy King Community College in Chicago. I took physics and calculus every day during the day. I worked a job from 6 to 9 at a mall. I then went to the U.S. Postal Service where I worked another job on the 10:30 to 2 a.m. shift. I then took the subway to go home. I got up in the morning, got on a bus. I went back to school. One semester at community college. I passed calculus with a B. I passed physics with an A. And in January, I was in Boston. So what I'm saying to everyone in the room, there is no story that you can give me that would suggest that you can't achieve your dreams. You just need to have grit. And colleges are looking for students who have grit. They're looking for students who are the ones who say, you know what, you will not stop me. Give me an opportunity, I'm going to take advantage of it. In this clip, I'm going to play this clip, and here's what I want all the young people to do. Pick out the one area of your brain where you are gifted.
When you think of intelligence, you normally think of the one intelligence that most people refer to, and that is intellectual intelligence. And Howard Gardner says there are actually multiple types of intelligence, and I'm going to go through them with this video. Now the first is called logical mathematical intelligence, and this is basically what you think of when you think of intellectual intelligence. This could be stuff like logic, or if you're good at taking tests, you will probably have pretty high logical mathematical intelligence. This also has to do a lot with critical thinking and making and reading graphs, as well as organization. If you like to organize your stuff, keep it very organized, and are good at organizing, then you probably have very high logical mathematical intelligence. Now the second one is called verbal linguistic. And if you have high verbal linguistic intelligence, you're probably good at saying a word. You are good at poems, you are good at rhyming words, finding words that rhyme, you are good at reading and writing, and you're good at learning other languages. You learn them pretty quickly compared to other people. And you're probably great at turning a little tiny story into a huge, fascinating story that can draw an entire room. Now the third is interpersonal. And interpersonal intelligence would be like understanding other people's emotions, understanding what the social etiquette and norms are for the situation. You have to be able to be good at reception of other people's moods and what motivates them. If you are a business administrator and you're good at motivating someone, you probably have pretty high interpersonal intelligence. If you're a good leader or just a manager in general, and you can coordinate work with other people, you are probably really intelligent in this interpersonal field. The fourth is body kinesthetic, which means you are good at handling and maneuvering your own body. You can handle objects skillfully and basically move them around however you want them to, as well as your body. People that are very intelligent in the body kinesthetic field are dancers, actors, soldiers, and even many sports athletes. The fifth is musical intelligence, and this is associated with rhythmic and harmonic music. Being able to interpret sounds, rhythms and tones and pitches, and being able to understand them on a level that most people can't understand. If you're good at this, you can probably compose or at least play an instrument. The next is visual spatial, and this is like basically how well can you visualize something in your mind's eye? How well can you think of something in your mind? And another example of this would be, how well can you get through a maze? Can you see it in your mind's eye where you're at in the maze or a cornfield? And Gardner went so far as to say that this could even be used as to judging distances, or how well can you read it out? And the next type of intelligence is called intrapersonal intelligence. And this is different from interpersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence is more about how you understand yourself. Are you self-aware? Do you know what feelings you are feeling, what emotions go through your mind when you're in certain situations? How well can you control your thoughts and actions and feelings in general? Do you know your strengths and weaknesses? And the last, which came out a couple years after Howard Gardner came out with his multiple intelligences theory, is called natural intelligence, naturalistic intelligence. And this has to do with being able to recognize yourself in the real world. Basically, flowers and trees and anything that's living. Hunters and fishermen are pretty intelligent in the naturalistic field. So are chefs and botanists that can grow plants. And basically anyone that has learned in any biological science is pretty intelligent in the naturalistic field. Anyways, my next video is going to be on how you can improve these habits.
So here's the point that I'm making for you. If you pick one of these areas where you have natural tendencies, you're naturally gifted, then go all in. If you're good at math and science, go all in. Don't worry about your friends who say that you're a nerd. This is the Carolinas. If you're good at hunting and fishing, hiking, and being in an environment, go all in. Compete. Earn awards. Become the best. If you are an athlete or an artist, or right now, the students that I'm working with, one's a ballerina. Another student, he's brilliant at working with his hands. He took a machine tool class in high school. Another student, he just is totally inwardly focused. I mean, he has been involved in set goals. What I'm saying is whatever it is that is you, pick it and then go all in. Start to take classes that relate to it. Become an expert at it. If you fish, become an expert at fishing. If you row, become an expert rower. If you write poetry, publish it. Enter contests. If you draw, don't draw and put it in a sketchbook and put it under your bed. Take it out and enter the PTA Reflections contest and enter other contests. What I'm saying to you is that whatever your gift is, go all in. Now, for those of you who said, Mr. Wynn, how is that going to help me get a job? We're not talking, tonight was not about getting a job. Tonight was about getting scholarships. So what you want is you want your gifts to guide your pathway into scholarships. You want your gift to make you so exceptional that colleges will overlook your weaknesses. What I'm saying to every young person here is you don't have to be the best student academically. Because we know, first off, as parents and as a community, we have known for years that athletes could get into schools that the valedictorian couldn't even get into. We know that the valedictorian and the salutatorian would get rejection letters, but the running back on the football team, he got in. Why? They needed him. They didn't need another valedictorian. There are 50,000 high schools. 25,000 high schools, 50,000 valedictorians and salutatorians in a pool of applicants. There may only be one running back that has the strength and the speed they need to build a championship team. But they also may need an artist. They may need a dancer. They may want to expand their ballet program. They might want to expand their visual arts program. So what I'm saying to you is that here in Cumberland County, you have the opportunity to become exceptional in so many ways because the school district puts it out there for you. But you gotta want it. You have to want to be hungry. You got to want to go get it. So then when you submit your application and you include your resume, that it shows that you have been exceptional. And so I'm not suggesting anything that is, pardon me, is not possible. So what I want to make sure I do, and I keep looking at my watch, I don't want to run out of time, is I want to make sure that I show you the practical pathways that young people take. Elementary school. When I say for elementary school students and parents, what I'm saying to you is that you may have only brought your high school students here tonight. Because oftentimes the middle school is next door. Maybe none of the middle school parents or the middle school students came because they all think that you don't start talking about scholarships until you're in college. But if you're here and you have an elementary school student, then what I want you to understand is that these things are practical and doable. Identify the right colleges based upon your family's financial need. So how do you do that? What's the easiest way to do it is this. For those of us in the room who come from poverty, it's easy for us. All that we need to do is go to U.S. News and World Reports and look at the top-ranked major universities and look at the top-ranked liberal arts colleges. In the top 20, they almost all have the exact same financial aid policy. That if you can get in, we will not allow money to keep you from getting this education. So for those of us who come from poverty, ours is easy. For those of us who come from higher income families, it means you got to do a lot more research. You got to identify those colleges that offer scholarships that are based upon the meritorious area of your child. So I'm going to show you some examples of exactly how that works. As you start identifying your schools, simply put pins in a map. And then as you've identified the schools that you're going to be pursuing, then as you're going through elementary, middle, and high school, just pursue that. Here's my example for you. This is Kimberly. She was in 3rd grade. She said, I need a full scholarship. Okay, Kimberly, what are your gifts and talents? I'm smart. What else do you do? I enjoy being smart, Mr. Wynn. No problem, Kimberly. When Kimberly got to 6th grade, she laid out a 4-year high school schedule that was the most rigorous classes available in her high school. She came to me at the end of 9th grade with her first semester grades. She said, Mr. Wynn, I'm disappointed. I said, why, Kimberly? Well, I didn't get 100 in every class. She was ranked number 1 out of 470 students in 9th grade. And then in 12th grade, she had lost her number 1 ranking. She was ranked number 2. But what she had her sights on were the schools. Kimberly was offered admission to Duke, Amherst, Princeton, Vanderbilt, and Williams. They all met her mom's full financial need. Williams is the most generous college in America in terms of financial aid because Williams not only awarded Kimberly a full scholarship, they paid her transportation between Williamstown, Massachusetts, and Georgia twice a year, gave her a laptop computer, paid her conference fees so she could attend conferences the entire time that she was at Williams, and even offered to support winter clothing when it got really cold at Williams. Kimberly applied to Washington Lee, which offered a merit-based scholarship, which meant that even if she came from a high-income family, she could accept that full scholarship. The 3rd grader enrolled at Williams College in 2021. But the scholarship search doesn't stop. When she graduated from Williams College with a degree in math and chemistry, she is now in a PhD program at Iowa State. She received 6 full graduate school scholarships because graduate schools are looking to expand diversity of women and people of color in STEM-related fields. So if you go to the Iowa State website now, you will see her in the department as a TA pursuing her PhD. Let me go back for a moment because, I want to make sure that I leave you with this image. The conversation didn't start as a high school senior. The conversation started in elementary school. Now, for those of you who say, Mr. Wynn, it's too late for me. I didn't start talking about it then. I need you to give me a better example. No problem. I came prepared. Middle school. The process is almost the same with one change. In middle school, you have a 7-year opportunity to become that student, to get into that college that you've identified. So then you have 7 years to take the right classes, develop your gifts and talents. In middle school, you have all sorts of choices. In this district, you get to choose your middle school when you're in elementary school. Once you get into middle school, you have choices of different types of electives. What I'm saying to you is this, and let me be clear. For those of you who go through high school and you feel that it is in your best interest to take the easiest classes so that you can get an A, that is simply not true. It is in your best interest to take classes that relate to your interests. You see, colleges are not going to be upset with a guy that took PE 1, PE 2, PE 3, PE 4 when he says that he wants to go into kinesiology or physical therapy, or he wants to pursue medical school in anatomy. They're not going to be upset with that. But if there's a guy that takes PE 1, PE 2, PE 3, PE 4, and then says to a college, but I really want to be an engineer, that's not making any sense to them. What they're looking at is, well, rather than taking PE 1 at your high school, they offered robotics, you didn't take it. They offered computer programming, you didn't take it. They offered mechatronics, you didn't take it. And so what I'm saying to you is that as young people and as parents, let's just sit down and make sense. If we're trying to navigate our way, like my wife, when we leave here tonight, we have to go to Augusta, Georgia, where we're going to sleep, and then we're going to speak tomorrow in Macon, Georgia. We've already mapped out the road. I'm not going to leave here and say, man, I wonder how I'm going to get to Augusta. So parents and young people, you got to sit down and start to look at this holistically. Here's another student. This is Jocelyn. She came to a boot camp as a 6th grader. So after she left the boot camp, she said this on the last day. She said, Mr. Wynn, my parents are first-generation immigrants from Indonesia, and they can't afford for me to go to college, to pay for me to go to college, so I need to do whatever I need to earn a full college scholarship. Okay, that was 6th grade. Now she's in 10th grade. This is what her resume looks like. I mean, these are only some of the areas, but her resume is so stellar. She's ranked number 16 in the class. She's in 4 honor societies. She's been president of our leadership board, president of a cohort club she started at our school, co-president of the Asian Student Association, class president for freshmen and sophomore, and she created a podcast called the Undebatable Relatables. What I'm saying to you is that this was a child that said, I need a scholarship. We said, you need to do these types of things. She said, nothing but a word. What I'm saying to all of you is, if I can give you information and tell you what you need to do, you have to own it. You have to own it and say, okay, I'm going to do it. You can't leave and say, well, he told me I need to do all those things, and I don't want to do that. I thought he was going to come and tell me I could just ask for scholarship money. It was going to fall out of the sky. I couldn't come here and be dishonest with you. So that's what she's done. Josiah didn't even come to the boot camp. He just talked to her. And Jocelyn said, look, this is what I'm doing. Josiah said, hey, whatever you're doing, I'm doing it too. So this is him. So he's in the 10th grade. His academic record is not as good as Jocelyn's. He's not a leadership in as many places as Jocelyn. But he has identified his niche. He loves Future Business Leaders of America, and he's actively involved. He's a track and field athlete. When he heard me talk about athletes having advantage, he said, hey, Mr. Wynn, I was thinking about giving up track and field. I changed my mind. I'm going to stay on the team now. And so he's working his plan. For high school 9th graders. Now let's move into 9th grade. What are you going to do? There is one thing that is common on every slide. You have to identify your colleges. And I'll tell you this, for anyone who is here, I know that they're going to give away 25 copies of one of my books. It's called A High School Plan for Students with College-Bound Dreams. But I will make this commitment to you. If you send me a copy of your resume, and you tell me what your family's financial need is, you have to divulge anything personal. Just tell me I'm low income or I'm high income. I promise I'll respond to your email and I'll tell you exactly what I think you need to do based upon whatever grade you're in. I mean, I don't know what else to do other than that. Now, for those of you who say, I don't have a resume, if you send me an email, say, Mr. Wynn, I don't have a resume. I'll send you a link to where you can create your resume to start to put it in. And I'm going to show you what a resume looks like when you're serious about scholarship money. So So here's Tarita. She's in college now on full scholarship, but she started in the 9th grade. She set these goals. See, the point that I want to make about this, which is really important, and again, I'm not saying to anyone in the room, you need to be like this. What I'm saying to you is that you need to become intellectually curious. What colleges are looking for in young people is young people who are asking questions, who want to know, what is it that I need to do? Tell me how I can develop a plan. Well, so Tarita, she hadn't done any of this stuff. What we said to her is that, Tarita, you need to be in the National Honor Society. Well, I don't know how to get in. Well, go to your school and figure out what you need to do. We said, Tarita, you need to apply to the Yale Young Global Scholars Program, and they have an early application period. I believe it was in October. And Tarita, she's a member of our church. You need to become an officer in the YPD. And Tarita, you need to become an officer in our foundation. And Tarita, so what I'm saying is that these conversations, they kept leading to actions. That's what this is really all about. What is a conversation and what action will it result in? And so for Tarita, and also I want to make sure that we're clear on this, because sometimes the conversation moves in the wrong direction, goes off on a tangent. How can I get all of the scholarships? There are Facebook postings, and we have several foundation pages on Facebook. And so I see these postings every year. A student was offered admission to 50 colleges, $5 million in scholarship. Another student offered admission to 100 colleges, $8 million in scholarships. I read those postings and I'm only looking for one thing. Where's the one full scholarship? Because you can't spend another college money at another college. So if you got offered admission to 50 colleges and none of them offered a full scholarship, you can't go take the money from those 50 and use it at the one school you're going to go to. That school, you're going to take out student loans. So at the end of the day, you're not trying to get into 50 colleges. I mean, I know that's good to be posted around the counselor's office and to brag to your friends. At the end of the day, this is the only bragging right you're looking for. What's the one college I got into with a full scholarship? And so Tarita got into 2. She was offered admission to Honors College at Claflin and the Alumni Scholarship to North Carolina A&T. High school 10th graders, it's almost exactly the same. This is Jayla. Jayla, to me, represents an example of young people I can see in any audience. Is that she was going to school, doing the right thing, and didn't know what she didn't know. And so when we met Jayla in the 10th grade, she was at the top of her class. She was a good student, but she had absolutely no leadership footprint whatsoever, because no one had ever mentioned to her that you need leadership to get into some of the types of schools that would meet your full financial need. But Jayla's the type of student that said, well, Mr. Wynn, what do I need to do? And this is what she did. I met her at a high school sophomore who had no leadership at all. She had hardly any community service at all. But once we had the conversation with her that I'm having with you, she went back and she did all of this. She joined the National Honor Society at high school. Her high school didn't have an English Honor Society, so she created one. Her high school she was in the band, she's in the band. Her high school had a Tri-M, but it wasn't active. She reestablished it. She applied to the Yale program and was accepted. She applied to Questbridge and was accepted. South Carolina Palmetto Girls State is a big deal in South Carolina. She was nominated, attended. She's a writer. And she did just what I said I want you to do. She looked at her gifts, and then she started taking her gift and creating a footprint of exceptionality around the gift. She created a blog. She applied for the South Carolina writing contest, and she won. She received a laptop computer, a $1,000 donation to her high school, and then as a high school junior, she identified all of those schools that I put up on the previous slide, and most of those schools have programs for low-income students where they fly them in free to their campus, and they're recruiting them because they feel they will be a good fit. She made all of those programs, and she's applied to her number one choice November 15th, and by December 15th, she'll know if she got in. And it's already clear. If she offers admission, she's going to have a full scholarship because that's their financial aid policy. This is her resume. The important thing about this resume, she built it piece by piece. And so what I'm saying to all of you in the room, you could leave this session tonight, you could go home, you could do a self-assessment, and you could start building your brand step by step. If you're an athlete, you could pursue becoming a captain or a co-captain. You could train younger kids in athletics. If you're an athlete and you're smart, you could tutor other athletes. You could tutor middle school and elementary school students. If you work a job, you can make sure that the next day that you go to work, you let your employer know that you're going to be expecting a letter of recommendation, and you want to know what can you do to earn it. What I'm saying to you is that, man, whatever it is, whoever you are, wherever you live, wherever you come from, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian. Oh, let me mention this also. If you're in this room and you are undocumented, and someone has told you that you can't go to college in America, the next time someone tells you that, just walk away, because it's not true. And I'm going to show you Juliana. Juliana is from Mexico. She's undocumented, lived her entire life in school in fear. And people told her, including her family, they just didn't know. But they told her that it was unrealistic for her to want to go to college because she's from South Carolina, and South Carolina doesn't provide any state money whatsoever for undocumented students to go to college. What my wife and I said to her when we met her as an 11th grader is we said, Juliana, there are plenty of schools in America that treat undocumented students just like they treat international students. Same financial aid policy. All you got to do is get in. And so we helped her put together a college list, and she applied to University of Chicago, rejection. She applied to Northwestern, rejection. And she was going to give up. She started ghosting us. We used to be in touch with her on a regular basis. My wife would text her, she wouldn't respond. She'd call her, she wouldn't respond. But my wife, Mrs. Wynn, is persistent. She called the school counselor. She said, go find Juliana. Bring her into the office. Then she came in and she said, put her on the phone. She said, hello, Mrs. Wynn, very respectful. Juliana, how come you won't respond to her? She said, Mrs. Wynn, I don't think I'm going to college. I'm trying to enlist in the military. And I said, Juliana, how are you going to get in the military? And she said, the recruiter told me, and my wife said, Juliana, you can do whatever it is that you feel that you want to do. But the one thing that you are going to do is you're going to finish out what we started. Because she had stopped. Williams College sent her an email saying, we need one more document to finalize our decision. And she just wouldn't respond. So my wife made her go home, get the document, come back. She sent it to Williams. The next day, she got two things. She got a letter saying, congratulations, you've been offered admission. And she got a financial aid award letter that awarded her $90,000 a year. Now here's why. Williams College, their financial aid policy is money will not keep you from getting a Williams College education. Well, it only costs $80,000 a year to go to Williams. So why would they give a student $90,000? Well, what Williams said was, you're undocumented, which means that you're not going to be able to work like normal students would be able to work. So we're going to give you what you would normally earn. You're undocumented, so you won't be able to afford your $2,500 medical insurance. So we're going to pay that $2,500 for you. They said, you're undocumented, and you probably are going to have a lot of stress just navigating your way from South Carolina to Massachusetts. So we're going to pay $3,500 so you have 24/7 counseling for mental health. He said, you won't be able to afford a laptop, we're going to give you one. Can't afford books, we got you covered. You need somewhere to store your stuff over the summer, we got you back. What I'm saying to you is that as a young person in high school, you have the opportunity to build a plan to get you anywhere that you want to go. But what you have to do is push out all the noise, all the stuff you thought you knew, and if there's nothing else you do after you leave here tonight, stop listening to your friends. How do young people, I've never understood that. How do young people listen to other young people who tell them, this is what you should write your essay about? How would they know? Or young people say to other young people, well, you know, colleges don't care about that stuff. How young people get all this stuff off of Twitter and Instagram and what's that other one? TikTok. And I know young people don't do Facebook. And they, you know, so stop listening to your friends. Talk to someone who knows. And always be willing to engage in these authentic conversations. So let me transition right now to make sure that we have time for questions. I think I got through most of what I wanted to cover. I do want to talk about Jordan just for the high school seniors. When I met Jordan as a high school senior, she didn't have time to go backwards and do any of the stuff that I'm talking about, but she already had the body of work. And the most important thing was was that, man, she was so gifted in speech and debate. She didn't even know how much money that was worth. But that speech and debate for her was worth $256,000. So she was offered admission to USC in Southern California, and she received a speech and debate scholarship. So let me stop there, and let me go to questions. Yes?
Can you go to the last slide for the seniors you missed?
I'm sorry, someone saying, man, seniors been waiting the whole time, and you just went past that slide. Okay, for the seniors. You got to meet all your college application deadlines moving forward, and it's unfortunate that I didn't come and see you in August because the most money that colleges give away will be during their early action deadline. So if there are still any early action deadlines that you can meet, you definitely want to meet them. So for example, some of our students, October 15th was the early action deadline for the University of South Carolina and Columbia. November 1st was the early action deadline for my alma mater, Northeastern, and for a number of other schools. So that's one. Next one is this, for students and parents. If there is a college that you research, and you can send me an email and ask me a question, I'd be more happy to answer your question, and you believe that that college has the right financial aid policy for you, and if there's still an opportunity for you to apply early decision 2. Most colleges, they've already gone through their early decision deadline, but if they still have an early decision 2, then for some students, that will be the best opportunity for you to be offered admission, and it doesn't matter how academically accomplished you are, because colleges reject number 1 and number 2 students every year. They reject students with perfect test scores every year. But early decision and early decision 2 are the best opportunities for a student to be offered admission to a selective school. The FAFSA, if you have not completed the FAFSA yet, do it tomorrow. I mean, the FAFSA filing period opened on October 1st, and some colleges, they distribute their money on a first come, first served basis. So they have already distributed an FSEOG. That money can be depleted. Some colleges have already depleted their entire annual allotment of FSEOG funding. When you complete the FAFSA, respond to the emails promptly, because if your application is selected for verification or any problem, just respond immediately. If you have not completed the FAFSA yet, get ahead of this and go home and order a copy of your IRS transcript. For freshmen in the United States, there are many students whose applications will be selected for verification, and when they do that, they typically will request a copy of your IRS transcript. So if you have it at home, you can respond to that right away. you shouldn't be doing your scholarship search just willy-nilly. And again, I have nothing against school counselors, but I do want you to understand as a senior that if your counselor gives you a packet of information with scholarships, that there are 24,000 high schools in the United States, and many of those students are receiving the same packet of scholarship information. If someone tells you about the Burger King or the Coca-Cola, don't think that in Cumberland County you are the only one who ever heard of the Burger King and the Coca-Cola. They're applying for that. Coca-Cola will get over 200,000 applications for their 200 scholarships. And the scholarships are not worth a lot of money. So rather than spending your time applying for these large scholarships, start small and start local. Credit union, PTA, automobile dealerships, local attorney's offices. Start Walmart, the local Burger King, Chick-fil-A, Panera Bread, wherever you spend your money. Every time you go in, ask the manager, do you have scholarships? And start local because they're the easiest scholarships to get. Again, and then in terms of demographics, if you do a scholarship search, and here's how you do your internet search. Scholarships for, and just put in whatever your for is going to be. Scholarships for black students. Scholarships for white students. Scholarships for undocumented students. Scholarships for women in engineering. Scholarships for men who dance ballet. I mean, whatever it is. What I'm saying is that when you do it, if you look at the search results for one term, one phrase, you'll get 500,000 hits. You don't have enough time to apply for 500,000 scholarships. So if you sort of look at it in terms of where you're going to invest your time, and here's what I want to say to parents of students who are in grades 9 to 11, is that if your senior is now going to invest hundreds of hours trying to find scholarships, then look at your 9th to 11th graders and say to them, you invest hundreds of hours in developing your gifts and talents so that as a high school senior, you get into the college that offers all the scholarships. Now, so for those of you who are here and you say, look, Mr. Wynn, I have sat here and listened to you and you have made me more depressed than I was before I came in because you've told me that I got to do all this stuff and now it's all behind me. No, I saved this part for you. Make the right college choice at this point. If you can't get your scholarship money now, here are the viable pathways. Start at Tech or community college. Commit to your first year to earning straight A's. Apply, but spend your first year researching the four-year school you want to transfer to. And identify a four-year school that offers transfer scholarships. In that year that you mature and that you earn the grades, then you apply to that four-year school as a transfer student. And you go into that school on full scholarship. You've saved your parents tens of thousands of dollars. For those of you who don't want to hear that advice and you don't want to do that, fine. Go to a four-year school and take out student loans the first year. Everybody in the family just bite the bullet. Second year, make sure that you're in a school where you can earn your way into the honors college on full scholarship second year. And then you commit first year to becoming that honors college student that you couldn't get into when you applied. Second thing you can do second year, make sure that you have a clean academic record and behavioral record at your college so that you can apply as a resident assistant your second year. And then as your second year, you can get free room and board as a resident assistant. The next thing you can do is during your first year, then apply for scholarships through your department, which are much easier to get than as a high school senior going willy-nilly trying to figure out where the scholarship money is that everybody is telling you is easily available. The thing that happens in colleges have contracts with the federal government, and oftentimes they're pass-through scholarships. So a professor will need a research assistant, and he can give a research assistant full tuition. Or a professor has a program, and he can pass that through. Now, How does that happen for all of you who are in this room? It goes back to something I said earlier. Now is the time for you to spend less time on the phone and more time building relationships with people. The most scholarship money you will ever get is through your relationships. If I leave tonight and you contact me, that means that you're being proactive at building a relationship. If I leave tonight and you're upset with me because I did not validate the myths and the falsehoods of your coming here, thinking I was going to tell you the money is falling from the sky, all you got to do is hold your hat out, hold your hand out, then you've missed that opportunity. And I would say this to all the students in the room. We have had students all over the country who have started college and they had student loan debt that first year, but because they did these practical things that I'm suggesting to you now, they built a relationship with a professor, they found out about a special program, and they wound up on scholarship that next year. The final point that I'll make for all of you is this, in terms of the student loan debt. The number one reason that students in the United States do not finish college is because they run out of money. It is not about their aptitude. Young people, by and large, if they have grit, they can be successful academically when they're in college. I've even seen young people who are awful high school students who became stellar college students. But still, if they run out of money, they'll be back home. And my final word to you as parents, if they come back home, the student loan debt that they took out and the parent loan debt that you assume, it doesn't go away. They don't forgive it just because they didn't get their degree. So it's like buying a car that you never get to drive. I don't wish that on any of y'all. So I see Dr. Whitley is over on the side to give away some things. I may not have answered all of your questions. I think I've only answered one question. Dr. Whitley, do I have time for another question? Have I exhausted my time? One more? Oh, 5 minutes? Okay. Let me come down from up here so I can get close to people. Well, my wife doesn't want me to get too close to people. I know y'all don't wear masks in North Carolina. We do. So I just stay closer over here. How about that? That good? All right. Any questions over on this side? Yes?
Can you go back to the slide that had your contact information? So we can contact you? Appreciate it.
Oops. Maybe I went too fast. There it is. Okay, yes. Anyone in this section? Anyone over there? Yes.
You suggested the National Honor Society. Sometimes the window is closed. Is that available every year, or is that?
It depends on the high school. But I'm glad you mentioned that. So because that's a good question for everyone. When you start your high school, here's a rule of thumb. When you start 9th grade, make sure you go to the 12th grade graduation. So at the 12th grade graduation, when you're seeing all the awards and honors that students are getting, that oftentimes people don't know about, write it all down and plan for the ones that you want to get. So oftentimes as a 9th grader, you can find out all the requirements for each of the honor societies. Now, for those students in the room who have National Society of High School Scholars on your application, that's not a thing. Now, for those of you who say, Mr. Wynn, it is a thing. They told me I was special. I'm not saying that you're not special, but they also told 100 million other people they were just as special. What colleges look at is what did your high school offer, or what did your church offer? What did your community offer? What did the Boy Scouts? Oh, any Boy Scouts in the room?
Got one over here.
Eagle Scout is the ticket. Any Girl Scouts in the room? Girl Scouts Gold Award. For those of you who are in Scouts and you get to the point to where your friends say that's dumb. Colleges don't look at it as dumb. Colleges look at it as leadership. But also, let me say this, for those of you who say, Mr. Wynn, I'm not popular, I can't do anything in my high school, you don't have to. Do it in your community, do it in your home, do it at the YMCA, do it wherever. Okay, over here. Were there any questions over here? I should ask the people who are sitting up front. You guys came, if you're up front, then you were looking to get something. I may not have even said what you wanted to know. Yes?
Can you tell me what the threshold is between low income and high income?
It varies by school. For the FAFSA, it tends to be about $60,000. If your income is under 60, you probably qualify for the Pell Grant. For highly selective schools, it can go as high as $200,000. So it really depends on the school. But I will say this, I'm glad, that's a good question for everyone in the room. If you qualify for $1 of the Pell Grant, you don't have to qualify for the whole Pell Grant. If you qualify for $1, that identifies your family as lower income, which means that colleges are being held accountable to offer admission to more lower income families. And so for most colleges, you can find right on their website, well, I won't say it's easy because just to find the stuff tonight, it's not easy. But if you email a college, they'll tell you what their income thresholds are. Yep. You guys came early. Any questions? Did I not say something you came looking for? See, that's the one thing I want Dr. Whitney. I don't want Dr. Whitney to get an email, say, man, I came and I listened to that guy. He said everything but the one thing I want to know. Is there anything that I missed? Okay. Anyone up there? Yes. How to out of state? Out of state, nothing. Forget about it. Not even in the conversation. I'm going to tell you why. Because colleges anybody they want to admit, they make exceptions all the time. We have a lot of students who go to school in one state, and colleges simply change the code from out of state to in state. They do it for athletes all the time. So that's not really the number you're looking for. What the number that you're looking for is, how do they meet your financial need? So if there's an out of state school, let me do one as an example. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. In-state tuition in UNC Chapel Hill, maybe something around, I don't know, $11,000, maybe even $9,000. Out-of-state tuition, maybe, I don't know, $25,000. But because of their financial aid policy, the North Carolina Covenant, they're going to meet the full financial needs. So it doesn't matter that the in-state is different than the out-of-state. The one thing that does matter is our children in Georgia, they could go to UGA with the same. Here's what really matters. Well, not for you all, because you all don't have a state scholarship. In Georgia, we have the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller that will pay for your tuition at UGA. Our students leave and go across the state lines to the University of Alabama. They pay out-of-state tuition. They don't get to use their state scholarship, and their parents take out $30,000 a year in student loans to go just to say Roll Tide. Now look, I'm not going to pay $30,000 a year. I'll just go buy an Alabama T-shirt and an Alabama cup and an Alabama pennant flag, but $30,000 a year over 4 years, that's $120,000. That's a lot of money just to say Roll Tide. So again, it's not in-state or out-of-state tuition as much as it is what is the financial aid policy of the school. And let me put it in this term. I think it'd be good for everyone. If I went to an automobile dealership here and I wanted to buy a $60,000 car, and then there was another automobile dealership, they had a $30,000 car, but the automobile dealership that I went to, the owner was going to give me a $30,000 discount because he needed to move that to get in new inventory. Now I got a $60,000 car for $30,000. So when you look at what colleges put on the sticker, it really doesn't mean anything but a starting point. You really have to do the research on a financial aid policy. Okay, any final? Yes?
Do clubs like Beta Club, do colleges look for things like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, two things. They look for Beta Club, but if you become an officer on the Beta Club, that's even better. And if your Beta Club goes and does something at a senior citizen home, and then the director of the senior citizen home writes a letter to the Beta Club saying how wonderful you all were. That is what colleges look for. Because what colleges are looking for is young people who will contribute to their campus community. So it's all of those things that suggest to them the type of student you'll be if they offer you admission. Yes?
Yeah, my daughter is a freshman.
Yes.
And she, in middle school, did the volunteering with Beta Club.
Right.
Can she put that on her resume?
Okay, that's a good question for everyone. On your resume, here's how you build your resume. Start with everything that goes back to kindergarten until you start to get more high school stuff. As you get more high school stuff, the other stuff starts to fall off. So for example, in the situation with your daughter, she may have middle school Beta Club, but then if she fills her resume, because you only want one page, if she fills her one-page resume with high school activities and then it forces the middle school to come off, then that's fine. But so what you want is whatever you can put on it there, to be there. Also, and let me say this for those of you who thought, oh wow, what do you mean kindergarten? There are students who are black belts in martial arts. They started that thing in kindergarten. So so what college is looking for is your history. What is your long-term involvement? Okay, one final question over there. Yes, sir.
I've been told that sometimes you need to complete one scholarship with another one. For example, an athletic scholarship with an academic scholarship. But the college said that you can just take one scholarship. Like, for example, let's say the 60%. So how do you complete that missing 40%?
Okay, two things. This is a great final question. One, the financial aid or the policy of the college means the first thing. Is that you may look at one college that says, okay, we can give you this, but we take back that. Another college will say, we give you this and we give you that. So you gotta make sure you apply to enough schools so that you compare. Now, to the heart of your question though, college took back some of that money, so how do you fill that gap? That's my point. Now you're looking for small scholarships to fill the gap because the gap is smaller. So the college is giving you 60%, now you're not trying to find 100%, you're just trying to find 40. So how do you find that 40? You start with your gifts and talents. So you start with, if I'm an athlete and I have leadership, what are the credit union scholarships? What are the scholarships based upon my ethnic background or income? And so then you start to look for the smaller ones, and the smaller ones will add up. $1,500 here, $1,500 there, $500 there. That adds up. But it's difficult to get up to 100,000 or 60,000 with only small. So you start with whatever the college gives, and then you close the gap. You got another question? Because I saw your hand about to go up. Yes. Go ahead. What's your next question?
Because the college will give you that scholarship, and you will get those other little scholarships. But you can't get those other scholarships because I've been told that.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. However, you bring up another important question. Colleges have their own policy for outside scholarships. Some colleges, they take their money back for every dollar you get and you bring in. Other colleges, they allow you to keep all your scholarship money until you exceed the cost of attendance, which goes back to the point of my whole presentation. You got to talk to the financial aid officer at the college. You got to ask that question of them. So I got 40, you gave me 20,000. Now I'm going out looking for my own scholarships. If I find 10, are you going to take 10 of your 20 back? Or you allow me to use my 10 plus your 20, now almost at the cost of attendance? Most colleges will allow you to do that, but you got to talk to the school because some colleges won't. All right, did I answer?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so before I turn this back over to Dr. Whitley, because I'm always trying to read an audience, just a round of applause if you got something that was useful, worth your coming. Okay, thank you.